What if I told you that some of the most horrifying moments in WWE weren't scripted at all? The screaming, the blood, the broken bones, the careers that nearly ended forever. Millions of fans assume every painful moment inside a WWE ring is just incredible acting. After all, professional wrestling is entertainment, right? But every once in a while, something goes terribly wrong. A simple jump turns into a shredded knee. A routine kick shatters someone's face. One bad landing crushes the spine. And in one unforgettable moment, a superstar was thrown nearly 16 feet off the top of a steel cage, stood back up, and shocked the entire world. These weren't movie effects. These were real medical emergencies happening live in front of thousands of fans. Today, we're breaking down the most shocking legitimate WWE injuries and explaining exactly what happened inside the human body, from torn ligaments and fractured bones to dangerous brain injuries and career-threatening spinal damage. Some of these athletes returned stronger than ever. Others were never the same again. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why WWE doctors and trainers have one of the toughest jobs in all of sports. Let's step inside the ring. The thin line between entertainment and reality. Professional wrestling is carefully choreographed. Every punch, every slam, and every jump is planned to reduce risk. But here's the truth many people don't realize. No amount of planning can completely eliminate danger. Imagine two athletes weighing over 250 pounds colliding at full speed. Now imagine one of them jumping from the top rope, twisting through the air, and landing with perfect timing. If either wrestler is off by just a fraction of a second, everything changes. A knee bends the wrong way. A shoulder pops out. A neck absorbs the impact instead of the back. And suddenly, a scripted performance becomes a real-life medical emergency. That's exactly why even experienced WWE superstars suffer devastating injuries despite years of training. Their bodies are constantly pushed beyond normal human limits. Night after night, city after city, match after match. Eventually, the body reaches a breaking point. Some injuries heal within weeks. Others require surgery. And a few can change a person's life forever. The first injury on our list is a perfect example of how quickly everything can go wrong. A single leap, just one awkward landing, and one of WWE's biggest stars immediately knew something was seriously wrong. Coming up next, Logan Paul discovers that one bad landing can destroy an athlete's entire season. The crowd was on its feet. Logan Paul had climbed to the top rope, preparing for another one of his signature high-risk aerial moves. Moments like these had become his trademark. Fans expected something spectacular, and he rarely disappointed. He launched himself into the air. For a split second, everything looked perfect. But the landing wasn't. The moment his foot touched the mat, his knee twisted at an unnatural angle. Instead of absorbing the impact, the joint collapsed inward. Logan immediately grabbed his leg, his face filled with genuine pain. This wasn't part of the performance. Something inside his knee had failed. At first, many fans thought he was simply selling the move, a common part of professional wrestling. But as officials and medical staff rushed to the ring, it became clear that this injury was very real. What happens when a knee twists? The human knee is one of the strongest joints in the body, but it's also one of the most vulnerable during sudden twisting movements. Unlike the elbow, which mainly bends in one direction, the knee must handle body weight, rotation, jumping, sprinting, and sudden stops, all at the same time. Inside the joint are several powerful ligaments that keep everything stable. One of the most important is the medial collateral ligament, or MCL. This ligament runs along the inside of the knee, connecting the thigh bone to the shin bone. Its job is to prevent the knee from collapsing inward. When an athlete lands awkwardly or another force pushes the knee sideways, the MCL stretches beyond its limit. Sometimes it only strains. Sometimes it partially tears. And in severe cases, it completely ruptures. Why doctors can't always tell immediately. One of the biggest misconceptions in sports is that doctors instantly know exactly what's injured. In reality, the first few minutes after a serious knee injury are incredibly challenging. Pain causes the muscles around the knee to tighten. Swelling begins almost immediately. The athlete struggles to move the joint. Because of all that pain and swelling, many physical tests become less reliable right after the injury. That's why medical teams often focus on stabilizing the athlete first. Later, once swelling decreases, specialists perform detailed examinations and imaging tests such as MRI scans to determine exactly which structures were damaged. The hidden damage. A twisted knee rarely injures just one structure. When enough force enters the joint, multiple tissues can fail at the same time. The MCL may tear. The ACL, which prevents the shin bone from sliding forward, may also rupture. The meniscus, the shock-absorbing cartilage inside the knee, can become trapped and torn during the twisting motion. Instead of a single injury, doctors may discover a combination of damage that requires months of rehabilitation. For elite athletes, that doesn't just mean missing matches. It can mean rebuilding their entire body from the ground up. The mental battle. Physical pain is only part of the recovery. For professional wrestlers, confidence is everything. After a serious knee injury, many athletes wonder, can I jump the same way again? Will my knee hold? What if it happens again? Learning to trust the injured leg can take just as long as healing the injury itself. Some athletes return stronger than before. Others spend months fighting the fear of re-injury every time they step into the ring. And unfortunately, knee injuries are only the beginning. Because next, we'll look at a WWE superstar whose face absorbed the full force of a devastating strike, leaving doctors concerned about broken facial bones and potentially dangerous head injuries. In professional wrestling, punches and kicks are designed to look devastating without causing serious harm. But no matter how skilled the performers are, timing has to be perfect. If someone moves a fraction of a second too early, or a foot lands just a few inches off target, a carefully planned sequence can instantly become a real medical emergency. That's exactly what happened during one unforgettable WWE match. A powerful strike connected directly with a superstar's face. The arena went silent. At first, many fans thought it was incredible acting. Then the cameras zoomed in. His nose looked completely crooked. Blood began pouring down his face. And suddenly, everyone realized. This wasn't part of the script. Why the nose breaks so easily? Although the nose looks solid from the outside, much of its structure is made from thin bones and flexible cartilage. The small nasal bones at the top provide support, while cartilage forms the lower portion. Because the nose sticks out farther than any other part of the face, it usually absorbs the first impact during a collision. Even a single direct kick, elbow, or knee can fracture these delicate bones. The result is immediate pain, swelling, bleeding, and sometimes a noticeable deformity. But, surprisingly, a broken nose is often not the biggest concern. The injuries doctors worry about first. When medical staff evaluate a facial injury, they're looking for far more than just a crooked nose. One dangerous complication is a septal hematoma. This happens when blood collects inside the nasal septum, the wall separating the two nostrils. If that trapped blood isn't treated quickly, it can cut off the blood supply to the cartilage. Without oxygen and nutrients, the cartilage may begin to die, leading to permanent collapse of the nose. That's why doctors carefully inspect the inside of the nose instead of focusing only on its appearance. Another concern is damage to the bones around the eyes. A strong impact can fracture the cheekbone or the eye socket, making it difficult to move the eye normally or causing double vision. These injuries often require CT scans to determine how severe they are. Concussions can hide behind facial injuries. Whenever someone is struck hard in the face, doctors also think about the brain. Even if the skull isn't fractured, the sudden impact causes the head to snap backward. Inside the skull, the brain continues moving for a split second before hitting the inner walls of the cranium. This rapid movement can stretch delicate nerve fibers, producing a concussion. The athlete may remain awake. They may even continue wrestling. But symptoms often appear minutes or even hours later. Headache, dizziness, blurred vision, confusion, memory problems, sensitivity to light. That's why ringside physicians monitor injured wrestlers long after the visible bleeding has stopped. Sometimes the injury you can't see is far more dangerous than the one everyone notices. The recovery process. Fortunately, many simple nasal fractures heal without surgery. Doctors usually wait until swelling decreases before deciding whether the bones need to be realigned. If surgery is necessary, it's often scheduled several days after the injury, once the exact position of the bones can be evaluated. Concussions, however, require much more caution. Returning too soon increases the risk of another head injury before the brain has fully recovered. For professional wrestlers, that can threaten not only a single match, but an entire career. And as frightening as facial injuries are, the next injury on our list is even more dangerous. Because when a wrestler lands directly on the head and neck, every second becomes critical, and one wrong movement could mean permanent paralysis. Coming up next, one terrifying fall that left the entire WWE arena holding its breath. Every WWE superstar knows there's one type of landing they fear more than anything else. Not a punch, not a kick, not even crashing through a table. It's landing on the head and neck. Because when the neck absorbs the full force of a fall, the consequences can be life-changing in a single instant. During one unforgettable match, a high-risk move went horribly wrong. The timing was slightly off. Instead of landing safely on the upper back and shoulders, the wrestler came down almost vertically. The head struck first. The neck bent under the weight of the entire body. For a moment, no one moved. The crowd became silent. Fans watching around the world immediately realized this wasn't part of the show. Why neck injuries are so dangerous? The human neck contains 7 cervical vertebrae that support the head while protecting one of the body's most important structures, the spinal cord. The spinal cord is like a superhighway carrying signals between the brain and the rest of the body. Every movement, every sensation, every breath, depends on those nerve pathways working properly. When the neck experiences a violent impact, the vertebrae can crack, shift, or compress. Even if the bones remain intact, swollen tissues or damaged discs can press against the spinal cord. That's when doctors become extremely concerned. The difference between a neck strain and a spinal injury. Not every painful neck injury is catastrophic. Sometimes the muscles and ligaments are simply overstretched. These injuries can be painful but usually heal with rest, rehabilitation, and time. A spinal cord injury is completely different. If the spinal cord is compressed or torn, the brain may lose its ability to communicate with parts of the body. Depending on where the injury occurs, an athlete could experience Severe weakness, loss of sensation, difficulty moving the arms or legs, problems with balance, difficulty breathing in the most serious cases. This is why medical staff never rush an injured wrestler back to their feet after a dangerous landing. Why every second matters. When doctors suspect a neck injury, their first priority isn't finding broken bones. It's preventing additional damage. Even a small movement could worsen an unstable injury. That's why trained medical personnel stabilize the head and neck before moving the athlete. Specialized imaging, such as X-rays, CT scans, or MRI scans, helps determine whether the vertebrae, discs, ligaments, or spinal cord have been injured. Only after serious damage has been ruled out is it considered safe to remove spinal precautions. The long road back. Recovering from a serious cervical injury is rarely quick. Athletes often spend months rebuilding neck strength, improving mobility, and regaining confidence. Some require surgery to remove damaged discs or stabilize the spine with metal plates and screws. Others may never receive medical clearance to compete again. For professional wrestlers, the greatest challenge isn't always healing physically. It's trusting their body enough to perform dangerous moves again without hesitation. One moment of fear inside the ring can change everything. But the neck isn't the only injury that can end a career. Imagine tearing one of the strongest muscles in your entire upper body. Your chest instantly turns dark purple. Your arm becomes dramatically weaker. And despite all of that, you still decide to compete in one of the biggest matches of your life. It sounds impossible, yet one WWE superstar actually did it. Coming up next, the unbelievable story of Cody Rhodes and the shocking pectoral injury that stunned the entire wrestling world.